This is true in the world of business and the world of science. But it is also true in the church of the living God. We are looking for the mechanics of success, but we're looking for the shortcuts to conserve time and energy and finances. We want the easy route. You can improve upon science, and you can improve upon sophisticated equipment, technology, medicine, and education. But hear me, you will never improve upon the power and the force of prayer. The greatest people of this earth today, the greatest, are the people who pray. I do not mean those who talk about prayer, nor those who say they believe in prayer, nor yet those who can explain beautifully about prayer, but I mean the people who take time to pray. They don't have the time. It's got to be taken from something else. And this something else is very important, pressing, urgent, but so much less important and so much less pressing than that of prayer. The men and the women who have carried forth great movements and have accomplished great works and glorious works for God have been men and women preeminent in prayer. These are the people that put prayer first and group the other things in this life schedule around and after prayer. These are the people today who are doing the most for God. They're winning the most souls. They're solving the hard problems and answering the hard questions. They're awakening churches. They're supplying men and monies for mission posts. The hand that reaches out to save has first of all got to clasp the throne of God. There is no power, absolutely no power like that of prevailing prayer. There is no power. While this world's progress in science and art is overwhelming, the church is slow to learn that she cannot improve upon the examples of intensified, prevailing prayer of the heroes of faith in the Old and the New Testament. And yet, if a man can pray, he can do anything. If a man can pray, he can do anything. He has earth and heaven at his disposal. God will do, as a result of the praying of the humblest one here, what otherwise he would not do. It's stronger than that. God will do in answer to the prayer of the weakest one here what otherwise he could not do. For you can do no more than pray until you have prayed. But you can do no more than pray until you have prayed. Because prayer is striking the winning blow. Whatever else you do after that is just gathering up the results of prevailing prayer of faith. Therefore, prayer is the power on earth that commands the power of all of heaven. The greatest benefactor this old world could ever have is the individual that will bring every one of us back to the art of the prevailing prayer of faith. Why? Because the prayers of God's saints is the capital stock of heaven by which God carries on His great work upon this earth. God conditions the very life of His church and the prosperity of His cause, His purpose, on the prevailing prayer of faith. Prayer hath brought health to the sick, hearing to the deaf, speech to the dumb, eyes to the blind, life to the dead, salvation to the lost, and hath cast the devil out of not a few. If this is true, then the prevailing prayer of faith should be the main business of our day. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day we must pray, and we must pray more. For if prayer is anything, it is everything. If it is true, it is the greatest truth. If the church will not pray, God will not act. If the church will not pray, God will not act. If the church will not pray, God will not act. God will never go over the head of His church. God will never go over the head of His church to enforce any decision. He cannot take things out of her hands. He put them there. I give you power to tread on serpents and scorpions and over all the power of the enemy. I give unto you the keys. Paul said, we have access. So blessed is the church that is praying, for it shall be filled. Churches that pray together grow together. Churches that pray together work together. Churches that pray together love each other. Souls are saved. Individuals are blessed. Families are blessed. Pastors blessed. The Lord is blessed. This house shall be called a house of prayer. Therefore, holy men and women in the past who subdued the powers of hell and were more than conquerors, they changed the course of national affairs. They subdued kingdoms. They obtained promises. They wrought righteousness. All of these were men and women of intensified, incessant intercessory prayer. The men and women of our day who are affecting their generation. They've pushed back the horizons. They've established churches on hostile soil. Proverbially, they've turned their world upside down. And they've started a revival that the devil in hell can't stop. They've been men and women of the prevailing prayer of faith. There is absolutely no power like that of prevailing prayer of faith. Prevailing is travailing. And I have a letter in my possession here today, a letter of just last week. Here's the question. Sister Mangun, would you answer for me what is prevailing prayer of faith? First, permit me to briefly tell you what it is not. It is not programs, education, personal charisma, personality, oratory, administration, advertising, how to win friends and influence people. It is not architectural triumphs, real estate, embellishment of music, robed choir, stained windows, carpeted pews, accoutrements, culture, refinement, or money. All of these are good, but genius is nothing. Learning is nothing. Organization is sarcasm and irony. Apart from that which gives every one of them value and force. Everything we do must be undergirded by prayer. Everything we do must be undergirded by prayer. The prevailing prayer of faith is not foxhole praying. It is not half-hearted, lukewarm, spasmodic, blowing hot and blowing cold, or just when you're in trouble. It is not a little lay me down to sleep bedtime prayer. The prevailing prayer of faith is the Spirit Himself. The Spirit Himself maketh intercession for us with groanings which cannot be uttered. It is the exceeding greatness of His power to usward who believe, according to that worketh in us His might, which He wrought in Christ when He raised Him from the dead. Prevailing prayer of faith is resurrection power. It's the mighty weapons to the pulling down of strongholds. It is the wrestling against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. It's the apostolic exhortation that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men. It is the divine first of all, before anything else. It is the protracted prayer. It is the groaning prayer. It is the fasting prayer. It is the weeping prayer. It is the speechless prayer. It is the effectual fervent prayer of the righteous. It availeth much. Say it with me. It availeth much. Shout it. It availeth much. It is praying in the Holy Ghost. It is praying in the Holy Ghost. It is praying in the Holy Ghost. Paul said, it is that worketh in me mightily. It is the apostolic key to the apostolic success. It is Jacob's ladder with God's mighty angels ascending and descending, taking up petitions and bringing back the answers. It is the most perfect form of prayer. It can touch the highest heaven and it can shake the lowest hell. If you believe it, try it, it'll happen. The prevailing prayer of faith, listen, It's Abraham when he stood yet before the Lord and said, wilt thou destroy the righteous with the wicked? And Abraham moved in on God and said, God, you will not destroy the righteous with the wicked. And God did not repel him, and God did not show him aloofness. Abraham stood, and as long as he stood, he received. Abraham was sure of what he wanted. His heart touched God's heart, and the Bible says God remembered Lot. For Abraham's sake, God spared Lot. That is prevailing prayer of faith. And let it suffice to say that every petition he offered received an answer. As long as he asked, he received. I ask you this. Is it possible that the cities of the plains could have been spared? I think so. And if your answer is yes, could you spare your city? Prevailing prayer of faith is Jacob, threatened by death, fearing for his life, praying on and on all night, wrestling with an angel of God until the break of day, crying out, I will not, 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 I will not. I will not let you go until you bless me. It is prevailing then over the angel. It is the revenge of 20 long years changed to love. It is Esau then falling on his neck and kissing him and weeping. It's Jacob's name being changed then to Israel. It is a worm being changed to a prince of God. Hence it is recorded later years by Hosea, we had power over the angel and prevailed. He wept and made supplication unto him. They remembered those acts. That is the prevailing prayer of faith. It is Moses, that valiant leader of Israel, interceding with God for a backsliding, disobedient, rebellious, vacillating Israel. It is Moses after God said to me, let me alone. My wrath has waxed hot against thee, and that I might consume them, and I will make of thee a great nation. I'll give you a promotion back up. Moses fell down on his face the first 40 days and 40 nights, said, I'll neither eat nor drink. He prayed this prayer, yet now, if thou wilt forgive their sin, and if not, never mind me. Blot me out. I don't want a promotion. That doesn't sound like eternal security. Your name can be blotted out. Moses said, put me out of your promise. Put me out of your covenant. Blot me, I pray thee, out of thy book which thou hast written. I'm not going anywhere. If you get to Israel, you got to wipe me out before you wipe Israel out. I'm standing here. But you forgive Israel their sin. Oh, it's in our hands today, O church of the living God. Moses prevails, Israel triumphs, and this is confirmed in later years also. Therefore he said that he would destroy them had not Moses, his chosen, stood before him in the breach to turn away his wrath, lest he should destroy them. What is prevailing prayer of faith? It is Joshua when he lifted his spear. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He lifted his spear toward that setting sun. And everybody cry out with me, sun, stand thou still. Did it happen? That's prevailing prayer of faith. That's a great victory. It is Elijah when he said to King Ahab, according to my word, there will be no rain or dew for the space of 3.5 years. I'll shut up the heavens. I'll bend you. But I've been bowing, but I'll bend you. He pulled fire down from heaven. It was of such that it burnt the sacrifice, wood, stones, dust, and licked up the water in the trench. Prayed again and again and again and again and again, and yet go one more time. And a little cloud appears about the size of a hand, and the rain falls, and it was declared a disaster area. That's prevailing prayer of faith. You know what Mr. Spurgeon said? Mr. Spurgeon, 1,200 men met him every Monday night for a prayer meeting. Don't decry those men. Don't decry those men. 1,200 men met him every Monday night for a prayer meeting. You know what he said? Oh God, for 500 Elijahs, and each one of them upon his Carmel, and each one crying out to God, and we'd soon have the clouds bursting, and we'd see the downpour of revival that would shake this world. It's Elisha when he said to Elijah, I want a double portion of your Spirit. What is prevailing prayer? I want a double portion. Go home, Junior. I'm not going anywhere. I want a double portion of your Spirit. Go home, Junior. I'm not going anywhere. I want it. I want it. I'm going to have it. I'll get it. I will have it. I will have a double portion. I will not sit down until I get it. I'm going after it and I'm not coming back without it. I want a double portion. Say, he got it. Say, he got it. That is prevailing prayer of faith. It's Hezekiah when he turned his face to the wall and stared death in the face and said, go home, death. I'm not ready to die. 15 years were added. That's prevailing prayer of faith. That's not trying to be cute. That's prevailing prayer of faith. I'm not going to die. Death, you go back where you came from. You deliver a message to the throne. I ain't ready to die. That's prevailing prayer of faith. And again, when Judah was besieged, Hezekiah went to the church of the living God. He went to the temple and he spread that letter out and said, I've read it, God, now you read it. And he stayed there until 185,000 that had come up against 20,000, and 20,000 couldn't compete with 185,000. We got the shortest end of the stick, but we got the God that was raised from the dead. I'm going to stand in the gap until. I'm going to stand until. It's Joseph praying in a dungeon, 13 long years. Say he was delivered, elevated to a throne, spared his entire family, the nation of Israel, all the patriarchs. That is prevailing prayer of faith. Bible history confirms everything I have told you. History can be both made and changed by the prevailing prayer of faith. George Washington knelt in the snow and called a national day of prayer and fasting. Not the United Pentecostal Church. Abraham Lincoln said, when there was no other place to go, I went to my knees. And he didn't even claim to be a church member of any man's church. But when there was no other place to go, I went to my knees. God has changed the destiny of nations because people unitedly, say unitedly, say unitedly, the United Pentecostal Church, they unitedly prayed and fasted, unitedly. One mind and one accord is the essence of the New Testament church. Unitedly, one mind, one accord, praying without ceasing. God will intervene in the affairs of nations, churches, families, individuals in response to the prevailing prayer of faith. What is the prevailing prayer of faith? It's Jehoshaphat leading the way, calling the whole nation of Israel to repentance, prayer, fasting, worship. And then it is that little nation of Judah standing before the Lord with her little ones, their wives and their children, standing in the breach, wasn't going anywhere until God came and delivered them. It is God dramatically intervening, and the entire invading army destroyed itself without a single weapon. Victory without a natural battle. It is Esther and her maidens and the Jews in Shushan fasting for 72 hours. When her nation was appointed for extermination, here's her classic immortal prayer with the surrendering of her will and her life to God. If I perish, I'm not going to sit down until I get it. I'm not going to stop. I'm not giving up. If I perish, shout it with me. That's not good enough. I can't endure this, and God won't put on me more than I can stand, and I'm not going to stand it. I'm going to put it back on Him. I don't want to see my people destroyed. I can't see the destruction of my people. I must save my people whatever the cost. I can't stand what's on me now. I'll just stand and hang in there until He comes and either delivers me or answers me. I'm not giving up, God. I'm going to ring that doorbell and sit on your steps until you answer the call. You know what? The whole balance of power within the Persian Empire was reversed. I mean, the law of the Medes and the Persians was changed. The Jews were delivered and spared and promoted, while their enemies were defeated, destroyed, and humiliated. Say it was a great victory. That's the prevailing prayer of faith. It's Hannah who takes the foremost place in the whole Old Testament scriptures among women for her fervency in prayer. Hannah's prayer is classic because it reveals the true ingredients of travailing, intercessory praying. That's the highest type of prayer known to believers. She was barren, childless, embarrassed, mocked, grieved, reproached, disgraced, brokenhearted. She prayed on, though. She prayed on until there was not a sound left in her. All the wind was knocked out of her. All the strength was gone. She prayed on, and her lips just moved, pouring out her soul before the Lord. She stood in the gap until, say until. Through her came the answer. Through her came the answer. And it is written, the woman went her way and did eat, and her countenance was no more sad. Her long night of sorrow followed by a morning of joy. She bore a son named Samuel, who changed the course of the nation of Israel. The child Samuel grew on and was in favor with the Lord and also with man, because he too prayed and fasted and offered sacrifice to such an extent that the Philistines came not against Israel all the days of Samuel's life. You don't have to tell me anymore. The hand of the Lord was against Philistines all the days of Samuel's life. None of his words fell to the ground. God stood behind everything he said. Then standing in the evening of his life, he said, you witness against me if you want to. You won't find nothing wrong with my life. I'm God's anointed. I've never taken anything that belonged to any of you. I'm pure. My hands are pure, and I can lift them up without wrath and without doubting. So God had to stand behind everything I said. It's Rachel crying out, give me children or I die. Say that with me. How long has it been since you prayed that way? You know, she bore into this world a boy named what? Number one? Say it. What was the second one? Benjamin. Somebody has asked, could Joseph be the former rain and could Benjamin be the latter rain? If it is true, Benjamin cost her life. It's going to cost us, as was preached to us last night. It will cost us to produce this last revival. It will cost us to produce Benjamin. It will cost us to bring the latter rain. It will cost us to bring revival. It is Hagar, not a woman of promise, a heathen mama with her 16-year-old boy banished from home, lost in the wilderness, weary, thirsty, hungry, grieved, heartbroken, lonely, famishing, dying. But she cried out, God, I can't stand to see my boy die. You better be glad, Brother Kershaw. I can't endure to see the lad die here before my eyes. And the Bible said God was with the lad. It's Rizpah. That's why I brought this. It's Rizpah. She who had been a concubine for King Saul. A famine came to Gibeon. The 7 sons of Saul were sacrificed to appease the anger of Jehovah, hopefully. They hung them all on a high black hill. But Rizpah says, no, the vultures and the fowls of the air and the beasts of the field are not going to eat those boys. I'll go there and sit on that rock right beside every one of those boys, and I'll fight the vultures off. From the beginning of barley time until from the beginning of April, no doubt, to the last of September, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. There's not going to be a buzzard. There's not going to be a buzzard. There's not going to be a wild beast. There's not going to be nothing. Get those boys. They're already dead, but they're going to get a decent burial. Say from April to September. She just lived there on that old rock. And she just took her little old garments and she waved and she didn't go anywhere. You might as well make up your mind. You ain't going nowhere. Abraham, in the evening of his life and in the evening sacrifice, he said, get away, buzzard. You're not getting my sacrifice. You're not getting my family. You're not getting my children. You're not getting my church. You're not getting my city. Don't stop for a few minutes. We're not going anywhere till we get this anyhow. We're not going anywhere until we learn. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. You may be seated. She used to wear ermine. She used to grace the courts in ermine, but now she's sitting on a rock. You're no good until you sit on that rock. Wearing ermine won't fix it. Haggard, wild-eyed, tireless, she was as a lioness guarding her dead cubs. But King David heard about it, and that's all she wanted. Say, the king heard about it. He gave her exactly what she wanted. He sent for those 7 boys and gave them a royal burial in the sacred garden with the king's family. That woman got it. Rizpah, concubine to Saul. What's at your disposal is absolutely staggering to the human imagination. It is Ruth cleaving to Naomi and saying, entreat me not to leave thee. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going all the way with you. I'll be here when you get back. I've taken my stand and we're not going anywhere. It is I myself when we came to Alexandria and not feeling adequate then or now and still making the same practices as day by day. Kneeling with my face to the floor in an old building and saying, God, I'm not adequate, but you are. I'll not eat until I feel. I'll not eat until I know. It's my standing before God for many reasons and for many things. It's a gushing river opening up on the inside of me when for 5 years married to my husband, I didn't even testify. I just watched him and admired him, and I said, listen, I'm going to get out of the bleachers. I'm going to get to playing this game. It's fasting and praying until a river opens up on the inside of me. Amen. Amen. I'm not going anywhere until I spare my children. I got to spare my family. I've got to spare my home. Ezekiel said, God wants to spare you, Israel, even in a time of national apostasy and conspiracy. If only, say if only, he can find somebody to stand in the gap with prevailing prayer faith. I sought for one. I couldn't find him, so therefore I have to pour out my indignation upon him. I don't want to. I wish somebody would get in my path. I wish somebody would get in my path. I'd spare that person. I wish somebody would get in my path. I'd spare that church. I wish somebody would get in my path. I'd spare this city. I wish somebody would get in my path. I don't want to do what I'm about to do, but somebody's got to stand before me. It availeth much. Because there was no prevailing prayer of faith, there was no mercy. There was no withholding of judgment. What is prevailing prayer of faith? It's Jonah waking out of sleep, having a whale of an experience, preaching to Nineveh, heathen city. Nineveh, human beings, the beast of the field, animals, fasted 3 days. Heathen king praying, maybe God will show mercy. God spares Nineveh 200 years. It is Daniel who stood taller in the estimation of the kings. He was preferred above all the presidents and princes because of the excellent spirit of prayer that was in him, and his enemies could find no fault in him, only this: he prays too much, and we see him kneeling 3 times a day. A man once asked, why wouldn't the lions eat him? And another one said, because he was 3 parts backbone and the other part grit. No, I'll tell you what he was. He was a man of incessant. Say incessant. Say incessant. Prayer of faith. Say nothing. Absolutely nothing. Stopped him, deterred him, detoured him. And when the Babylonian captivity was within 2 years of being over, he set his face unto the Lord God to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes. And while this man prayed, Gabriel touched him and gave him skill and understanding. Is that what you want? An angel touched him and gave him skill and understanding. And now we understand prophecy of the ages. Would anybody here dare to be a Daniel? It is Joel saying, gather the people, assemble the elders, gather the children, and even get those that suck at the breast. Let the bridegroom come out of his chamber. Let the bride come out of her closet. Let the preachers, let the ministers weep, 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 weep. Shout it with me. Weep. Shout it again. Weep. Out in front where everybody can see you. Be the example of it. Between the porch and the altar, keep on weeping. Keep on weeping. Keep on weeping. Keep on weeping. Every day. Say every day. Every day. Such great forces are going to be marshaled against you in the end time that Joel said that's the way you're going to have to handle it. It's Ezra weeping and lamenting and pulling his hair until he pulled his nation back on course. It's Jeremiah the weeping prophet crying out, "Oh, that my head were waters and my eyes a fountain of tears, that I might weep, that I might weep, that I might weep day and night for the slain of the daughter of my people." It is the 120, including Mary, the mother of Jesus, and the women at the dawn of the outpouring of the Holy Ghost dispensation, at the very threshold of the church age. In the first century, they continued in one accord. Say it again. Say one accord. Get your church in one accord, praying and fasting and seeking God. Just keep on. Just keep on. Say one accord. One accord in prayer, in supplication, praying and fasting for days and nights. Then the early church was born, Pentecost. Then came a sermon, but not until. Mr. Bound says the apostles' commission to preach was a blank until power of Pentecost, which prayer brought. 3,000 souls were added that day after that 10-day prayer and fast conference. Somebody said if 120 praying 10 days, fasting 10 days, 7 days, 10 days, fasting and praying in one accord, if they could produce 3,000 in a day, what could 3,000 praying and fasting for 7 to 10 days, what could they produce? And on that infant church prayed. They prayed everywhere, and everywhere they went they prayed, lifting up holy hands without wrath and doubting. Peter and John went every day to the temple for a what? Hour. For an hour. Say it again. Say for an hour. Say for an hour. Every day, at least an hour of prayer, they went to the temple. Then we read that the whole company, say the whole company, lifted up their voices to God in what? One accord. The whole company lifted up their voices to God in one accord until in the 4th chapter, and when they prayed again, the place wherein they prayed was shaken, and they were all filled with the Holy Ghost and spoke the word with boldness. We need an old-fashioned shaking. In the prayer meeting, the church renews her strength. The church is resistless for the purpose of her great mission when she's armed with the power of prayer. The whole power of the imperial Rome. She was then the mistress of the world. She proved unable to resist the intensified, prevailing prayer of that early church. She crumbled. She was shaken from center to circumference because they prayed everywhere, and everywhere they went, they prayed. When they gave themselves to prayer again and again, nothing could stop them. Nothing, not even preaching, witnessing, giving, or any other duty or doctrine was neglected or overlooked. But nothing compared by way of necessity with that of prevailing prayer. They continued. They continued. They continued. Say it. They continued. Say it again. Steadfastly in prayer. Steadfastly in prayer. Steadfastly in prayer. They continued. They continued. They continued. It is my Lord and Master who quit living with the holy angels and came down here among us and slept and ate with publicans and sinners and winning them one by one. It is He, the most wonderful one of that characterization, the most beautiful portrait and example of all. He went right through no matter the cost, who in the days of His flesh, when He offered up prayers and supplications, He did it with strong crying and tears, fasting 40 days and nights, continuing all night in prayer, out upon the mountains. 15 times in the New Testament it's recorded, rising a great while before day and going to a solitary place to pray. Refused to go forth to teach or to preach until He prayed. Praying all night before choosing His apostles. Prayed until He was transfigured. Prayed until His countenance was changed. Weeping over Jerusalem, cried, "Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem! Oh, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, Jerusalem!" Being in agony, praying until His sweat became blood. His burning white-hot zeal, His consuming passion was so terrible to behold that when the disciples saw it, they said, "The zeal of His Father's house hath eaten Him up." No wonder they cried out, "Lord, teach us to preach. Lord, teach us to sing. Lord, teach us to play the instruments. Lord, teach us to pray as you pray. That is the prevailing prayer of faith. It's that widow before that unjust judge crying, "Avenge me of mine adversary." And he would not for a while. But it's that same widow woman just keeping on and keeping on and keeping on. And that old wicked judge said, "I didn't fear God and I didn't regard man, but she's troubled me, and I will avenge her, lest by her continual," they continue. By her continual coming, she's got me worried. She wearies me. I'm sick of it. I'm tired. I'm going to give her what she wants. You know what the Lord said? Hear what that unjust judge saith. Let me say that again. Hear what that unjust judge saith. Leave here today. Hear what that unjust judge saith. I don't love God, I don't regard man, but she troubled me. It's that Syrophoenician mother with that daughter vexed with the devil crying out, "Lord, help me." That's all she prayed. Just 3 words. "Lord, help me." And she prevailed. She won over geographical, racial, dispensational barrenness. She got the answer when it wasn't available. It availeth much. Say it with me again. It availeth much. Say, she got it. If that Syrophoenician mama got it, and I'm a lady of promise, you think he'll turn me down and withdraw and recoil? No, he'll meet me more than halfway. It's that midnight petitioner in Luke chapter 11 who goes to his friend at midnight and asks for bread. You're a friend to get up. You're a friend. And the friend cries out, "Trouble me not. My children in bed. I can't rise and give you anything." And the book says, though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his prevailing importunity, his hollering, his screaming, his waking up at the church. Wake up a church, electrify it. Wake them up, wake them up, wake them up. Wake up the neighbors, wake up the church, wake up the city, wake up the world. Wake up. Wake them up. The Bible says he will rise and give him as many. Say, as many. He will rise and give him as many as he will. As many as he needeth, he will rise. He will get up. He will come. Just keep on hollering. Just keep on. And the Lord said, if I don't do something, they're going to wake up. Oh, yeah. And the devil will give you just a little bit. Don't be satisfied with a little bit just to get you to shut up. Don't ever get satisfied. Shout it again. Shout it again. And everybody shout it. Get used to hollering. This man says in here that a woman heard a missionary and didn't understand a thing he said but January and February. But she got under such conviction and got so hungry for God that when she went home she just said, "January, February, January, February, January, February." She got the Holy Ghost. I believe it. January, February, January, February. Oh, you don't want much. Some of you don't want much. You ain't going to get much either. I'm not gonna sit down until I get it. I'm not going to sit down until I get it. Sit down. It is the elect. Say, it is the elect. Say it again. Who are the elect? Bowels of mercy, kindness, humbleness, meekness, forgiveness. That kind, if they cry unto me day and night, shall not God avenge his own elect which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? Wake him up and don't go anywhere until he answers. Take you a stand and just keep standing. He'll come. David said he gives. Shout it. Don't hold back. Erupt. Scream it out. That's what we're after. Let that fountain open up on the inside of you. David said he gives to the beast his food and to the young ravens. Say, the young ravens. That's those black, dirty birds. He said, if they even cry unto me, I'll show them where some food is. Elect that cry unto me day and night, I will avenge them. I will do it for Abraham's sake. I will do it for David's sake. Prayed for Ahithophel, his enemy, and he went out and hanged himself. Don't let them run you crazy. Call a prayer meeting. Let the church roll on. Let the church roll on. Let the church roll on. Prayer and fasting and praise and repentance. Hands, what? Without wrath. And without what? And what else? Doubting. You can't doubt and have faith at the same time. They don't mix. Shall not God avenge His own elect? He said, I'll even shorten the day. Believe that, don't you? Say, I do believe that. Say, I haven't practiced it very much, but I do believe it. Say, I will read again and again and again until it happens. And I'll not give up, and I'm not going anywhere until. Do it again. 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 We will be a generation of prayers. We will be a generation of prayers. We will be a generation of prayers. We will be a generation. I believe it. You may be seated. I want you to scream this with me. Ask. Say it again. Say it again. Everyone that asketh, receive it. Everyone that seeketh, say seek. Say it again. Say it again. Say everyone that seeketh, findeth. Say knock. Say it again. Say it again. Everyone that knocketh, the door will open. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. It's going to open, it's going to open, it's going to open. Hallelujah! Shout it as loud as you can. Hallelujah! 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 He gives to the ravens that cry. He gives to the ravens that cry. He gives to the ravens that cry. Ha! Ha! The elect that cry day and night. You may be seated. Say this with me. Say, he that hath ears, let him hear what the Lord teaches. He is still able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we're able to even think or ask. He's still able. He's still able. He's still able. He's still able. He is still able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that we're able to even or ask. Seek, knock. Just say it here for a while. Ask, seek, knock. It'll happen. In spite of all of our modern gadgets, man's greatest single need today is still prayer. Prevailing prayer. The disciples cried out in the midst of a storm, "Save us, or we perish." Did he come? Was he in the bottom of the boat sleeping? Did they go wake him up? But not before he cried out. They cried out. He'll never get up and do anything for you until you do something. He'll never take it out of your hands. You and he are partners, and you're his earth partner. God, you won't destroy the righteous with the wicked. You and I entered into a blood covenant. I'm your earth partner. We're part of a corporation. I got to sign this as well as you. You ain't going to destroy it till I get Lot out of there. We're in cooperation together. We're in agreement. We got a contract. I made a contract with you. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe in it. Say, I believe in it more and more. Paul said, I could wish myself accursed. That was his cry. God, save my family, save my nation, save my people. How can I endure to see the destruction of my people? God, if you have to anathematize me, just save my kinsman according to the flesh. If I could but save my people, I would be willing to be anything. It's not for long, folks. Just do anything to save your people. Just let the flesh just go from your bones. Save your people from hell. Save your children. Let your face look like wild animals has got a hold of it, but stand before that throne and save your people. Save your people. Save your kinsmen. Save your children. Weep for your children. Weep for your children. Weep for your city. Weep for your church. You don't have to look like a fashion model, but you do have to be something before the throne of God day and night. Oh, oh. It is that same man saying, regions beyond are calling me. It is that same man saying, necessity is laid upon me. It is that same man saying, I will become all things to all men if I can win some of them. It is that man praying even at midnight with his back lacerated to the bone. It is God then sending an earthquake and the Philippian church is born. That is prevailing prayer of faith. It was the purpose of all the apostles. They said, put the saints everywhere to praying, and everywhere put them to praying. They knew if they could break the deadlock and the stranglehold on any situation, it would take prevailing prayer of faith. You're not going to do it. You've got to bend that church to bow your city. You've got to bend that church to save yourself. Bend the church, bow the world. It's the kind of praying John Knox did when he prayed all night in agonizing tones and said, Lord, give me Scotland or take my life. He shook Scotland. He lived to see the death of Queen Mary, who said, I fear his prayers more than all the armies of England. It was Evan Roberts, that little young coal miner, and you ought to read his history. Agonizing days and nights and weeks and months of prevailing prayer of faith. Great theologians, great preachers of the day came to hear him preach. They just saw him bent over in a paroxysm, agonizing. They went home shaken and they shook their countenance. He brought the world's greatest revival, the Welsh revival. And we have our roots in that revival. One little old coal miner boy got to praying and did it. George Whitefield, extraordinary preacher, but that wasn't his secret. It was the unction and the anointing under which he preached, and such conviction would hit people that sinners would fall by the hundreds, helpless to the ground, as though they were smitten by death. Wouldn't you love to see that? Hide yourself away and pray until you say, oh no, we don't want to be fools. I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about incessant, continuing, one mind, one accord. Everybody at it and everywhere, everybody at it. And everybody at it everywhere. Say, everybody at it. And everywhere, everybody at it. And everybody at it everywhere. As a man is, so he prays. He is not shallow and frivolous by nature, and yet pray with any depth or intensity. He cannot be half-hearted and indifferent and make great demands on God. Two features have always marked the periods of spiritual awakenings: the power of prayer and the power of preaching. Every great awakening in the history of the church from the time of the apostles until today has had its early origin in that of prayer. There have been great awakenings without much preaching, and there have been great awakenings without any organization. But there has never been a true awakening without much prayer. The days of Luther, Wesley, Jonathan Edwards, Finney, Moody, the revival in Ireland, the Welsh revival, the beginning of the latter rain at the turn of the century were all characterized by the power of prevailing prayer and preaching. They began with prayer and they ended because they neglected prayer. It's the secret of working miracles. It's making the valley full of ditches. Hear me? Say, it's making the valley full of ditches. And most of us can't even cut a trench. And before there's ever fallen a great benediction upon God's people, there had to be a great searching of our hearts, breaking up a fallow ground. weighty, ardent, vehement desires, consuming zeal and passion, heavy burden of soul, strong yearnings, groanings, weepings, lamenting, howling, bitter grief, wrestling, falling prostrate on the face in sackcloth and ashes. Does that sound like something easy? Fasting, confessing, rending garments, pouring water unto the Lord. It's the scriptural pattern. When God's people had their backs to the wall, no way out, hemmed in, surrounded by the enemy, embarrassed, suffering defeat, weary from battle, exhausted with human effort, facing death, cruel edicts, in bondage, slavery, oppression, always, without one exception, 2 Chronicles 7:14 becomes operative. If my people, which are called by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear it. Say it. I will, if they will. It's that safety deposit box in the bank vault. It is like it. The keeper has a key and you have a key. Neither alone will open the box, but when you hand the keeper your key, she inserts both keys and the door flies open. The storehouse of promises then becomes available to the redeemed man. 1,004 promises are in the New Testament alone. Lord, teach us to pray. Scream it again. Lord, teach us to pray. Now, it's our turn to use these mighty, powerful weapons. A survey of the United Pentecostal churches would no doubt reveal that a majority of our churches and ministers do not have regular, perennial, concerted prayer and fasting commitment. There is still too large a percentage with no special prayer schedules or definite days of fasting. We feel no woe upon us. There is no mighty pressure, no fervency, no turbulence, no agony, no bleeding, no holding on to God with a deathless, despairing grasp. And the fate of this world is in the hands of nameless saints. You can shape this world. Not only does Derek Prince say it, we can say it. You can shape this world and its events through prayer and through fasting. And now it's our turn to try it. There is no need to say that we don't have people that'll pray if we don't challenge them with definite prayer plans. It's not enough to say in a general sort of way that we want everybody to pray, but as leaders we must lead our people in something definite and specific. We must example it. We've talked about prayer. We've agreed that we know it's the only way to have revivals, but we have more preachers than we do prayers. Many are enterprising, but few are interceding. The church has many organizers, but few agonizers. The time has come. We must lead the people to their knees. Say, preachers and their wives. Say, preachers and their wives. Say it again. Must lead the people to their knees. When you have no other place to go, go to your... And if we're going to have praying churches, we got to have praying leaders. The ministry of your church and your own ministry is in your own hands. What do you want? The Full Gospel Central Church in Seoul, Korea, the largest church in the history of the world, with 150,000 members and growing at the rate of 5,000 per month, where 90,000 attend 6 services a day. They come in buses, taxis, bicycles, walking in freezing weather. Jamie Buckingham describes his visit like this. I sat on the platform with Dr. Cho. I could see the intense look on all the faces, as though they were in agony. I heard a noise like that of a waterfall. I turned to him and said, Dr. Cho, is there a waterfall underneath this platform? He said, no. That's thousands that you're looking at, Jamie Buckingham. They're only moving their lips, but they're groaning in the Holy Ghost in prayer. Why can't that be us? Why cannot that be us? That's what's got us worried. Why do we have to... And here comes along Dr. Cho, and all you want to say about him, you say it. But when you get through saying it, you say this: he's found out the art of praying and fasting. Count the church by her numbers, if you will, but I'll count her by the volume of her prayers. The church as a whole has never rightly understood the possibilities at her disposal in prevailing prayer. If you number the church in millions and tell me about this earth, yes, he will show himself strong. Oh, yes, he will. So much is poured into it. The church of the living God has never tasted its full extent the power of prevailing prayer of faith. I close with these 2 examples. Brother Mangun, fresh out of the world, went to Bible school, fasted 4 days every week. ate 3 days but had to shovel snow to eat those 3 days. Was on a 7-day fast because God spoke to him and said, you don't get these things only by prayer and fasting. And in the prayer rooms groaning, I've got to reach this world. That's been when he was 20 years of age, and today he is 63 years old. So, there was a young lady by the name of Faith Urshan in that school dying with tuberculosis. Brother Mangun went and hid himself away 7 days without eating and without drinking until Brother Norris came and commanded him to eat. He said, I will, but first I'm going to cross the border. I'm going over to the girls' dormitory. I'm going to ask permission to pray for a girl that's not going to leave this school. She don't have to leave this school. She's not going to leave this school. He was stopped. He was asked questions. It was foolish. Just bring her out. I want to pray for her. Simple prayer. Went on back to his dorm. Drank a little milk. Went to sleep. The next day, Faith Urshan goes. She is x-rayed. She is fluoroscoped. She is examined. She is healed. She is healed. Today, she is the wife of a minister, 40+ years later, serving in Indiana because one young man said she's not leaving this school, and I'm staring death in the face and saying, go home, Death. This girl is going to live. And he said, that set the pace for my life. I said, I want a life that's characterized by miracles. So every year of my life, at least one time, I'll go on a 7-day fast as an honor to God for just even that miracle in my life. And I will continue to fast the rest of my life for 1 to 2 to 3 days a week. Every week I will. And wherever I go and whatever I do, I'll not forget those weapons. They're my mighty weapons. They'll pull down strongholds, and I can take on any city and face any continent because they are my weapons of prayer. This man and my father who is here today, my father stood here 1 year ago and faced this audience and said, I have never gone to bed at night in 60+ years before I prayed through and touched God. I've never laid my head on my pillow no night. Those pioneers produced, if they didn't save all their family, the ones they saved are tough ones. They're tough. They're tough. They're tough. Prevailing prayer of faith. I was awakened and went to sleep. I was marked by prayer. I heard groanings unutterable. We had to eat. We had to do. We had to have. It had to be. He stood here and said, I've never laid my head on my pillow no night in my life since having received the Holy Ghost before I prayed through and touched God. This man and my father, before this man went to be with the Lord, was in our home on 10 Prospect on Thanksgiving before he went to be with the Lord the next September or October. And we leave the Thanksgiving dining table and we go to the living room, and my sister sits down and starts to play, and this man starts leading us in some of those beautiful Persian courses. And it was like this: let the mighty rivers within my soul flow out unto thee, O God. Let me lift my voice up unto thee, and let my hands be raised continually. And we all joined him and we began to sing. We lost ourselves until there was a knock at the door. I went to the door. There stood a girl that was walking down Rapides out there. We lived at Little 10 Prospect. She was weeping uncontrollably, and she said, I just felt something draw me to this house. I need something. Is it here? Sit down right there, little lady. Talk to her about the Lord. Brother Urshan pops in. Brother Mangun laid hands on her. She got the Holy Ghost. We thought that was all of it. My mother was dying with emphysema, and she's still with us today. And that's been how many years ago? How long has she been gone? 1967. My mother just passed out. She came forth, hadn't coughed a day since with emphysema. Here came a family knocking on that door that came from the street just over the way. What's going on here? Here came some backsliders. Here came some others off of this street and off of that street. And before you know it, the whole house was filled. People getting healing, miracles, people getting the Holy Ghost, some wanting to get baptized. What happened? Prevailing prayer of faith. Never, never. Just shout it with me. Never, never, never will I stop until I get what I want and go where God wants me to go and find the place that God wants me to find. I'm not giving up. I'm not stopping. I'm not ceasing. I'm going to cry. I'm going to ask. I'm going to seek. I'm going to knock. Shout it. Scream it. Yell it. Don't stop yet. Somebody here, don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop yet. Now listen to this last statement. Just listen to this last statement. God will never, say it with me. Say it again. Say it again. Stumble over the intercessor. He will stop by and have communion with him. He'll never stumble over him. He may pass you by with a lot of things, but he will never. He will never. I told my son when he went into the ministry, I said, I can't give you much. You needed a whole lot better education than you got. I'm sorry. But I promise you this, every birthday, but every day I'll pray, but every birthday I'll pay for this day. I will. I said, I'll go to that church early and I'll stay there till the sun sets, but I'll pray for you that one day a year. God will never stumble over the intercessor. God will never stumble over the intercessor. God will never stumble over the intercessor. I'm a Gigi. I must tell Jesus.